Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about replacing yourself as the operator in a business that you just acquired, okay? A lot of you want to do this because you want to go out and, buy other companies, or maybe you just want a higher return on your time. Either way, what you're wanting to do is replace yourself as that operator so that you can, work on the business yourself rather than, getting stuck in the weeds, so to speak. Now, there's a lot of challenges with this, and I've done this successfully a lot of times. I've done it unsuccessfully a lot of times, and so I want to kind of go through how to think about this and why. I want to bring those challenges up front to you, and then I want to give you a framework for thinking about how you might actually achieve it. Okay, my name is Walker Diable. I am the Wall Street Journal best-selling author of Buy Then Build and the founder of Acquisition Lab. I started Acquisition Lab because I was after Buy Then Build. I was getting like 15 calls a week of people who wanted help finding and buying a business. And I was like, look, let's get everyone in a room. We'll do it, super affordable. We'll vet everybody in here, and then we'll sort of elevate everyone with this world-class education. And then we can kind of have conversations and search on a do-it-with-you system that makes it more effective, more scalable, better for all. Here's the thing. We've in the last 18 months, there's been about 200 million in acquisitions from our members. And we've got almost 600 members now. Here's the thing. It's almost like the wealthier somebody is, or better said, the more ambitious someone is. They'll say to me, Walker, I don't want you to help me just find and buy a business. I want you to also then help me, replace, hire an operator to run the business so that I don't have to go to work, some version of that. And, whether you realize it or not, this is not a wonderful idea. Okay, just going in as a blanket. I've done it. We'll get to that. But like, and let me sort of explain why. I want to explain sort of the strain that you're putting on, the position you're putting yourself in, and then start talking through, a framework to think about how to do it. So here's the deal. If you are buying a business for $50, $100 million, $200 million. You're buying a company that already has a management team in place, most likely, okay? Or either that or like the luckiest entrepreneur in the world. So the point is you're going to need a team to get to a size like that. Now here's the thing. Most people going out and acquiring their first business, or even if they already own a company and run one and they're growing through acquisition, here's the thing. The reason I wrote Buy Then Build is because there is a abundance of, small businesses. I mean, hundreds of thousands of these things transact every year, and all the boomers need to sell them before the end of the decade, right? So a lot, and then there's all this financing available for these small businesses. So you can get up to $5 million, sometimes $6 million in bank debt to acquire these businesses with as little as 5 or 10% down, sometimes going up to about 20% down. So there's a great opportunity, and so most of the people I'm interacting with are someone saying, Walker, I want to buy a business for $1, $5, $6 million, and I want you to help me hire an operator. Okay, great. So I'm gonna use that sort of size as an example. Okay. Most of these small businesses don't really have teams in place, right? A lot of them, are owner operated, and that's sort of what makes the opportunity. So let's just pick one for easy math. With we'll say it's $1 million in seller's discretionary earnings, okay, SDE. Now, one of the reasons why I like buying existing companies is because the earnings of the company dictate the value of the company. Then, because we're using bank debt, these earnings pay off the loan, build our equity up, pay off the loan, provide some cash for you as the owner, and provide cash to reinvest in the business, okay? But you only have so much to work with, right? So, we're gonna start with a business that's $1 million, assuming a, 15 to 20% SDE to revenue. I'm gonna guess this is about a $7 million company, okay? And we're gonna buy it for easy of 4 times earnings all day long. So that would be like a $4 million, but not so fast. There's gonna be accounts receivable, there's going to be working capital in terms of inventory, and then just extra cash that you want in the bank to make sure that you're safe. So instead of buying this business for closing costs, so instead of buying it for $4 million all in, I'm just gonna go ahead and say you're buying this company for $5 million all in, okay? Great. Now, in loose math, let's say it costs about 50% of your SDE in principal and interest costs for the loan, okay? So we're gonna subtract about 50%, and that leaves you with about 500,000 in post-acquisition seller's discretionary earnings, okay? Got it? Now, how much are you going to pay this operator, okay? And you're going to put them in place. Obviously, if you just bought the company, you're going to probably require someone with industry experience who you feel competent can run a $7 million company on their own, and hopefully grow this company from $1 million in earnings to something higher, right? Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be hiring them. So let's just say that we could hire this person for $250,000 all in, and that's salary, taxes, healthcare. Maybe you've got a 401k match. This is a bonus. Whatever it might be. So we'll go ahead and say 250,000 is the expense of this person. So really at the end of the day, after you hire this person, you've got about $250,000 in earnings in which you're operating in free cash flow, which you're operating this business on, okay? And here's the point. You've got an extra $1 million in working capital moving through accounts receivable minus accounts payable plus inventory, and inventory is of course cash that's tied up, right? So you've got all these things that you're trying to manage. There might be some cyclicality to the year, right? And at $250,000 in free cash flow, you're talking about $20,000 a month if it's just like flat, right? Which it never is. And so you're trying to manage, like $1 million of working capital on an extra $20,000 a month coming in. By the way, you haven't taken anything yourself yet. Okay. So here's the point. When I buy a business, I always start by operating it. I build up cash. Okay. You got to build safety. This is my recommendation. You need to learn the business. All right. And when I put my operator in place, the first thing I do personally is I stop taking a salary or anything out of the business, because I need the machine to run on its own. I need it to cash flow itself, and I don't want a capital call on my own company, of which I own, 80 to 100% of the whole thing, okay? So this is actually a very, very lean situation where you're managing, $5 million acquisition with $250,000 left. So I just want you to understand sort of the tightness of this situation, okay? And if you had just bought it, there's no real cash buildup other than, what's in here. People are going to hit you up for bonuses. Maybe you want to keep some key people. Maybe there's you want to increase marketing, whatever it is. The minute that you add this manager, you're using all of your growth capital for the entire business simply in operations. So you better make that hire right, okay? One of the ways that I do this is I always, for those of you that know me, know that I work the prep funnel from buy then build. And so what I do is when I'm looking for a business for sale and I know that I want to put an operator in place, I'll actually find the operator first. Not by running, help wanted ads or anything, but just through my network and whatever, and sell them on what it is that I'm doing, and then, figure out what they're good at, basically like I do in coaching. And then I basically go find a business that fits their expertise, and I acquire that one. That's worked for me in the past. And that's kind of how I do it. But, the thing is, when you're setting this up to be a pretty lean operating machine, okay, I want you also understanding that if you don't understand the business, then this operator is really gonna have all of the control in the dynamic of your relationship, which is fine for me. I don't need a whole lot of control. The point is when I hire a software developer and ask them for, scope of a project, I never know if I'm asking them, hey, can you pass me the salt? Or like, hey, can you build me this parking garage? I don't really understand what I'm asking. And I've done a lot of sales before in my life. I've done a lot of marketing. I've managed a lot of inventory. I understand, running operations in a sort of a blue collar space and a service business and all the rest of it. I know I've had a lot of experience, but there's certain things I just don't know about. And so if you don't understand, sort of the details of how things work and create SOPs around them, you can't really remove yourself and put someone else in, okay? Because you've got to be able to jump in at a moment's notice and take over, right? So when you go buy that company, replace the operator with that's not you, and then you run out and buy another company and another company and another company, and you keep doing it. What happens is you have all these operators that understand all of your businesses way more than you do. You're not going to be taking a lot of money out of them because you're sort of building up equity, unless you're putting down like private equity firms like 40, 50, 60%, okay? Which is, this model still works, but people that can put that much down, I would probably elevate what it is that they're looking at from where we are. Different video. So the point is like I was actually with I had dinner with my buddy Dan Martell last week before, and it brought me back to his book, which is Buy Back Your Time. And I sort of reread it, and I say sort of because it was sort of rereading. I didn't, it wasn't cover to cover, but I was refreshing, the content and sort of applying it to my own business. And that's when I realized, wow, everyone's asking me this question. It actually is really well laid out in his replacement ladder. Okay, so props to Dan Martell. So, basically what he says is, you need to, the first person you need to replace is, sort of admin level tasks. He's a buy back your time guy, so it's all about, calendars, emails, scheduling, just like all of this kind of stuff, right? The next level that he talks about is delivery, okay? And delivery is sort of, whenever I'm talking with someone looking at a business, I always say like, okay, whenever I'm looking at a company, it's like, how do they attract and convert customers, and how do they deliver what it is that they're delivering, whether that be a product or a service or whatever. If you can, then outsource delivery so that you're not the one that has to, do all of this. And that's sort of what he calls the next level. The level after that is marketing, okay? Okay, so you're sort of moving up the stack. So hold on a sec. If you're buying a small business, okay, and they don't really have a real marketing engine, and one of the opportunities you see is, well, gosh, I know online marketing. I can actually run ads on this thing and create funnels. And one of the things I did when I bought my most recent manufacturing company is we target a very specific audience through paid Facebook ads, and then run them through this funnel to sell them something really inexpensive that ends up with our guys on their property, that then they can assess if there's an opportunity for our bigger sale, which is where we really make money. And it's I'm not going to say I'm brilliant. I'm just saying it's a brilliant attempt at, or a brilliant example in terms of how we can leverage marketing with old economy businesses. And so that was one of the things so if you've got to, figure that out, you're still at this level of the replacement ladder, okay? Then after that, he has sales, okay? So you can see as you move up the ladder, it's sort of like the I don't know, front office, back office? Is that what's going on here? And so the thing is a lot of these small businesses, if you buy a business, even with $1 million in SCE, the odds that the owner is doing sales are really high, right? Or the owner is doing marketing are really high. Okay, so you're gonna have to, outsource these things before you ultimately get to the leadership of the company, okay? So here's the point. When you guys are asking me, Walker, I want to buy a company that I haven't operated or worked in for a single day, and I'm going to replace the owner that's there with a new owner that we're going to hire, okay, you're essentially telling me, and again, I loved reading Dan's book again, you're essentially telling me that you want to come right on top of the replacement ladder and replace the highest level, okay? Fine, but number one, your business is going to be lean once you do that. And two, I want you to go through and make sure you've got standard operating procedures around all of these different things, okay? So that you can ultimately understand the business at every level, so that you can jump in a moment's notice and save your investment, your business that you should be running or paying attention to, okay? And come in and replace that leader as the last possible step. Okay, so just want to expose you to some of the challenges that you might be facing with replacing yourself as operator right away, as well as a framework in terms of how to think about the different steps to actually get it done. Listen, if you want to learn about buying businesses, check out Buy Then Build. It's the single best book on acquiring small businesses out there. And if you want to buy one in the next 12 to 18 months, check out, I should say 1 month to 24 months, check out Acquisition Lab. We are the elite provider for acquisition acceleration. Thanks so much. See you on the inside.